are talking about correct spacing. Now, if the placing of the first hole is like this. Now, for example, if this hole changed to this, you get the difference, eh? Automatically, everything will change. Yeah. Even the arrangement in the field will change. So we need to emphasize to the farmers that how you start is how you end. If we have started from this corner like this, on our second line, we should maintain a similar arrangement. Yeah. If we decide to plant horizontally, let it remain horizontal. If we decide to place our seeds vertically, let them remain in that vertical arrangement. Them to plant 2 seeds per hole. And indeed, these are the 2 seeds, then they will slow. See what has happened in the hole? They will still throw. Especially those of us who use laborers. We need to make sure we supervise the planting. So when the placement is like this, our arrangement changes automatically. So even within the hole, the spacing should be maintained. Iwinyo?
Winyo.
Like that.
A straight line. Even this other side is just in a straight line. Yeah.
So we can proceed?
Let's proceed.
We cover the holes. We cover the holes.
2 beans now.
No, we still have a lot to do with maize. That's why we started with it. We would rather not plant any other crop, but do maize.
Cover.
You maybe the other one is fine.
But now,
That is your mistake.
enough.
Enough.
Now, in most cases, when you're passing through the farmer's field, you can actually tell that this farmer has planted. In most cases, we have our good birds that are very clever that will tell that maize or soya has been planted here. But there are also signs that show that something has been planted. Now, when you plant, right now, even a blind person will know that there is something around here. Okay? So when you do not completely cover your hole like this, and you leave this kind of ditch, you get it? You're already exposing the seed to something else. Supposing it rained and water settles in this ditch for some good hours, you are subjecting the seed to rotting before it germinates. So we should struggle and strive to make sure that our holes are flat covered. Are we together? Flat covered. So these ones should not be there. No one should ever tell that something has been kept in that hole. Right? It is a common mistake by farmers. And very many of us do it as well. So, we have planted maize. Are we together?
Yes.
Did you hear of any herbicide during the presentations?
Glyphosate.
Glyphosate. Which glyphosate?
We trained about with the master.
Okay. This time I do not want to talk about that one.
Yeah.
We usually provide a package of technologies. So for maize particularly, we shall be bringing a herbicide along. Sometimes we do pre-emergence herbicides. Sometimes we do post-emergence herbicide. Now, if it is a pre-emergence herbicide, for example, Primagram or Prime Gold or Arzine or any other pre-emergence, this is the right time to apply. It can either be applied on the same day of planting or the following day, but not exceeding 3 days. Okay? So you can plant today and still apply the herbicide, or you can plant today, apply the herbicide tomorrow. The most you can go to is up to the 3rd day. Beyond the 3rd day, please, if it was meant to be a pre-emergence, just ignore. on safe use of agrochemicals is understanding the label, the instructions. However, it's going to be 250 ml in a 20-liter spray pump. Are we together?
Yes.
Now, we said that maize, unlike other crops, needs to be top dressed. Okay? So, assuming that our maize has already germinated and grown up to this level, okay? Top dressing should be done at around 1.5 months of after planting. Okay? How do we apply the top dress fertilizer? And which is that fertilizer anyway? Urea. Good. Do you all know how urea looks like?
Yes.
Someone for us urea, please. Especially the new CBFs. Have you been using urea before? Margaret, do you know urea?
How many of us have seen tobacco being planted? You have seen very many times.
So,
This is what they use.
this is urea. Urea is a fertilizer rich in nitrogen. And actually, the only nutrient we are looking for in urea is nitrogen.
And
It
high
is
in
labeled
soluble.
4600. Ideally, it only has 46% nitrogen and none of phosphorus, none of potassium. Are we together? Yes. It is very good for cereals. Cereals, maize, sorghum, millet, rice, and those other crops that you know. Those crops that do not have root nodules. Those crops with shallow roots, with fibrous roots. The importance of urea is to ensure that the crop gets the richer green color, okay? Which green color is going to help it in making its own food. Something that we called photosynthesis years before in P3, P4. But the scholars here are still cheating their parents, asking for money for photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Please.
And do the now.
And even now, So, that is urea. We shall be applying 1 bottle top per hole. In DAP, it is basically phosphorus. It is actually phosphorus. Now, phosphorus is very essential for root formation.
Yeah.
But according to the specialists, they said that even at planting, the crop needs to come up with that kind of potassium and nitrogen and the like, but in low quantities. So their blends have low quantities of those nutrients, of potassium and nitrogen. However, the quantities were much lower for phosphorus as required by the plant at that basal edge. But I think let us go back to this, why the 2 of NPK and why the 1 of DAP, why the 1 of urea. Now, Grind Pulse does fertilizer blends, a combination of different fertilizer components to come up with what they want. Yes. But we realize that maize is a heavy feeder. It requires more of phosphorus, especially for the rooting system, more of potassium, especially at that young growth. Now, the combinations in the Grind Pulse maize blend, we realize that the contents of the P and K are low compared to the nutrient requirement of maize at that young stage. So that was the only reason for doubling, to ensure that we have as much phosphorus as we can. When we are using DAP, we're using a single bottle top because DAP is a phosphorus-rich fertilizer. All right? When we apply urea, it is 1 bottle top because we already have some nitrogen at planting. So the crop came with some little nitrogen. If you can reflect on to where we are referring to the critical stages, but our maize requires the urea at that vegetative stage of growth. Okay? So, madam, we are going to apply urea.
How do we apply urea?
She's going to tell us.
Let's apply the urea.
Ono kasoli waffe. Aha.
In urea application, we are going to use 1 bottle top. But yesterday, we talked of the slope of the field. And when you're applying, you leave some distance. You don't apply just direct on the stem.
Why?
Because if you apply just direct here, what happens? What happens when you apply direct here?
Good.
Can burn the plant? What is the other answer? The roots of the plant will have already spreaded. So if you pour here, the root maybe has already spreaded here. So it will not do anything. So at least you leave some, at least a foot like this. Are we seeing? A foot like this?
A foot is too high.
Is at least somewhere here. 7 centimeters.
Such as supposed to be 10.
Yeah. When it will be readily available.
Just like this gap.
So if you begin applying from the upper side, that is the way to go. It depends on the slope of the soil. So as you apply on the upper side here, if it rains, it will just be pushing the urea towards the roots. Just like that. But don't do it in the other way around. So where's a stick? Bring. So you will just push this one here. Have we seen? We'll push this one here. Then you pour. Even this one, you push like this, you pour. The other one, you pour.
And you cover.
And you cover. Have we seen?
Yes.
Have we seen?
Yes, sir. There are very many ways of applying urea. That is one. Others can do ring application. In which case, there you're dodging issues of slope and what.
Yeah.
So you make your ring, still not forgetting that you have to leave this gap.
Yeah.
Then you bring your urea.
Bring.
Now, there was one other thing. What Geoffrey applied was this full. Okay? But our urea is supposed to just be flat full. Okay? Don't put the heap on top. Okay? Then we do this. This is what we call ring application. Okay? After that, we cover. Why do we cover? Because urea is very volatile. If you leave it in the open, it will evaporate. All the nitrogen will go back to where it came from. So we cover. You make sure that you cover thoroughly. I have not covered thoroughly. I can still see urea. So you cover thoroughly. Terms and conditions for urea. Number 1, we said it is only for cereals. Maize, rice, millet, sorghum, barley, etc. Okay? 2, it should be applied when the soil is wet. On a wet soil, not dry. Why? We have to enhance that it is directly dissolved. We do not want to give it chances to evaporate. Are we together? 3, it should be applied on a clean field. So we do not expect any farmer to apply urea before weeding. Are we together?
Yes.
Clean field. When you apply urea before you weed, 90% of it will be consumed by the weeds in the first 2 days. So you'll have done nothing to feed the crop. You will have fed the weeds. So let's remove the weeds first, then apply urea. Ensure that we are feeding our crop and not any other thing. Are we together? Any questions? Excuse me. Yes, please.
There was a training which I attended that when you apply urea, you put your dab, then you apply your urea. The first you can apply twice, then you get a good yield. The second one, you apply the flowering what? Stage.
Yeah, that is the split application we talked about yesterday, which we said is the most recommended method. However, we are dealing with farmers. We try as much as possible to make things easier for them. You know, the more tedious the activity becomes, the more the negative attitude a farmer will develop. So we are trying as much as possible to cut off that attitude of it is too much, it is complicated. Okay? Now, the adopters, whoever will have understood the why we use fertilizer, those ones can go to the next step and we go into nitty-gritties of how best they can make economic sense. Are we together? So it is still fine to top dress once. However, splitting can do much better. So seed priming is basically soaking seed before we plant it. And the reason is none other than breaking seed dormancy and enhancing germination. We are in an era of climate change. So we are trying our level best to see what a farmer can do to ensure that they continue producing with a changing climate. We believe that when you soak the seed, it germinates faster, quicker, and healthier. So by the time the weather is going to become harsh, the seed has already come out of the soil. Now with the other fertilizer, it is already growing. So we are sustainably helping the seed to grow, to establish itself. Okay? Yeah. We are going to soak our seed for a period between 8 and 12 hours of whatever you will receive. Okay. Even us as SG, we first conduct a germination test of what we bring out there. Even the seed companies, we subject them to provide us germination tests of the same lot. So with reference to like 3 sets of germination tests, we are able to make a decision. Now, this is what I wouldn't love us to do. Farmers down there have that worry that seeds might not germinate. So they want to plant like 3 or 4 per hole, which is okay at their understanding. But the challenge is, should God help you and both of them germinate,
They are not willing to.
they are not willing to remove the excess. That is where the challenge is. And that is why we say, let's do a germination test before, so that we are sure of what we are taking down, and then they follow the instructions.
Because the only thing that will make us successful is more bags coming from here than the other bigger acreages of theirs. Then here we are looking at the planting population.
Yes.
So some are keen, but since it's a germination test, even if we lose like 100 plants, let me say, it's minimal. Huh? Yeah, maybe we take, because the germination test is 90, 88. So let's take it at that level and we plant to